Hello, coders. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're from. This is episode 114. It is Thursday, the 19th of August. I had to double check that. And today we're going to talk about Apple and its decision or its plans to come up with two tools that will scan your photo content. And I'm going to start this off by saying that just because you can code something doesn't mean that you should. And that's going to be the underlying theme, I think, for today's show. So it's all of today's show is specifically on this. But before we get into that, let's do a little bit of housekeeping because I have an update on the Sylius. I always get this pronunciation wrong. It's the e-commerce framework or the add-on on Symfony that will build you an e-com site. I was struggling with this on the Tuesday stream. The reason why I was struggling with this is because I had it in development mode and it was so slow. And my PHP INI had the real cache path or real cache memory setting to kilobytes. I increased that up to megabytes. In fact, 50 megabytes. It's a bit overkill, but it's halved the speed. It's still fairly slow, but it's faster and it's actually more workable. So I'm going to still use that, and we'll continue on with some of that development over the coming streams. Also, we'll dip in and out of the How to Code Well stuff when needed. Okay, so let's crack on with this Apple announcement. So first of all, what's happening with this? So Apple will launch two tools in iOS 15, and I think they are calling the next release Monterey. I think that's how it's said. That will help protect children from sharing child sexual abuse material. Which is CSAM. Okay, that's what it stands for. CSAM. Now, on paper, this is awesome. This is awesome. It's a good call on paper. But the reason why we're discussing this on today's show, being about code, is that I do believe that as a programmer, we have to make some moral choices and some ethical choices as to what we're building and understand the impacts and also understand the long-term scope creeps, shall we say, of the tools that we create. Software, as it evolves and grows and goes into different industries, will also be used for not only good things but also bad things too. So I think we have an obligation to do no harm as software developers, and we need to think about the outcomes, the consequences of our coding actions as we go through this. Okay, so let's bring it back to what Apple is doing. So the first tool, there's two tools that they're going to create, and I must say that my information on this is it's quite sketchy because the way it's been spun in the media is so weird that a lot of media outlets have got this very wrong, and so the information that I have that's been collected through sources that I trust, they might not be correct themselves. So please just tinfoil hat time, but just treat this with a pinch of salt, I guess. Okay, so the first tool is an iMessage filtering tool. So it's a message filtering tool. It's going to be used obviously on iMessage. And this is a parental control. Okay. This is an opt-in for children ages 12 or below. So it's an opt-in. It's not there permanently. You can opt in and opt out. It runs on the device and not on the cloud. This is important. It runs on the device and not on the cloud. If activated, and it would be activated, I believe, by the parent. So you have a family account, right? With your Apple family account, and the parents have overarching controls over what their children can do on their Apple devices. So if it gets activated, it checks photos that are sent to and from the child over the iMessage app on the device and not on the cloud. The tool uses machine learning to detect photos that I can't. I'm reading my notes. I've spelt this all wrong. That contain nudity. If a detection is made, it will then obscure that photo and warn the child that that photo has this harmful material on it. Parents can, if they want, receive a push notification if the child chooses to view the photo. Now, there's a couple of interesting questions I have with all of this, to be fair, but specifically for this tool. That is, does the app allow the child to override the obscured image, and what causes that alert? As in, can they override the check? Can they go, actually, I want to view this? A bit like how Twitter says some of these tweets may contain harmful information, harmful content, and then you can say, yes, I want to read this swear word, thank you very much. So my question then is sort of how much is this enforced? How much does the app take control over what the child is actually going to see? And also, what happens to the parents? Do they have to report this stuff? Is this automatically flagged somewhere on Apple's side? Do the parents have to fill out a report? How does that all get handled? There's a lot of loose ends, I think, that haven't been sort of clearly. There isn't clarity over these kind of things. The second tool, let's move on to the second tool, which is iCloud, which is cloud-based. So the first tool was device-based. This is cloud-based. So the identity is known. This identifies known child sex abuse material. Again, CSAM, C-S-A-M, when the user uploads a photo to iCloud. So it is searching iCloud, scanning iCloud for. Now, I've got to be careful here. It's not actually the photos. It's the hash of the photos, and we'll get on to how that works in a minute. So it's not comparing apples for apples. It's comparing the hash of the apple to the apple that you've got, if that makes sense. So there is a database of known illegal children. Illegal children. You're illegal. No, there is a database of known illegal child abuse images, which stores a hash for each image. I believe the database is stored at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and that's another weird acronym, which is NCMEC. And can you say that? NCMEC? Okay, so existing cloud services already do this. Okay, so this isn't Apple doing anything new. So the likes of Facebook, Google, and Microsoft do this. Now, I've seen this, not CSAM, but I've seen cloud services scan my stuff. So, for example, if I was to take a photo of a receipt on my phone and I push that up to the Google Cloud, it will know that it's a receipt, and it will tag it under receipts, and it knows that it won't tell me about that receipt as a memory. Because it knows it's a receipt, and it doesn't know that it's a person. So it uses machine learning to sort all this out. Okay, the matching will be done on the user's device by going up to the iCloud. I'm not sure if that's right or not. I don't know. I heard conflicting messages there. I read conflicting things saying that it will be on the device or it will be straight on iCloud. I'm not 100% sure with that. Okay, so there is a threshold, because obviously there is going to be a load of false positives, right? So there is a threshold here of 30 images before a trigger will be made. And I believe that what happens is when a trigger happens, that gets reviewed by a human. A human will actually review that image against the image, and based upon that, it is, they'll just make that decision as to whether it is an offending image or not. And the system can only match exact fingerprints, as in they can only match. So they don't match photos to photos. They match the hashes. They have known hashes of the photos, and they compare those. So the point here is that it's not going to scan your. Someone isn't going to see every photo in your photo library. That's essentially it. So, I mean, that sounds great. That sounds pretty good, right? I mean, there is, there is a certain core, a need to keep our children safe. Sure, I agree. The thing is, in my opinion, there is a lot of gray areas in all of this, and there is a concern that this is only done. Apple is only announcing this because they are trying to justify why they will not be putting in backdoors for government access to certain things, because there was this whole debacle over the government's trying to put in backdoors into various devices, various hardware, various software, to allow them to decrypt messages. And they were using things like child abuse, terrorism, all of these kind of trigger words, I suppose, to justify why that is the case. And Apple have always said, look, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to allow you to do that. And this could be a way for them to say, well, look, we have these things in place to prevent the need for these backdoors. And so trust in the algorithm, trust in the process. And that's a bit of a worry, in my opinion, because I've mentioned here CSAM and that NCMEC thing. They're two organizations, I believe. No, CSAM isn't an organization. Sorry, it's the NCMEC. That's an organization. That's the U.S. National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. That is a government-funded national center, I suppose. So we have to then trust them. It's not just trusting Apple; it's also trusting another party to deal with our data. And you have all of these stories of it's not just the thing, just because it's metadata doesn't mean that they can't glue things together and make a bigger picture. There is also the concern over scope creep. So just because they can do this now, they've built this software, it works, right? Apparently it works, and they're going to release it in iOS 15. So what's preventing someone to change the scope of this? So changing what images, what hashes they're actually looking for. What is preventing some underhand organization from getting hold of this, or having, or some person who, when their role changes, has a different agenda. So someone taking over someone else's job, and then has a different agenda, and then wants to scan for other things. Like I said, this is a governmental national center, so you could have government influences. Now, okay, the Western world, it's a different story to say, China and that. Just imagine if China was to get a hold of this. And the thing is that this to me feels like it's Apple trying to make it easier to work with the US government. So what would they have to do to make it easier to work with China or other places? I do think that there are, I can't remember which countries, but there are certain countries that they do not allow things like iMessage and iCloud usage in certain countries, because those countries require no encryption. And I think, is it Saudi Arabia? One of these countries. And so Apple have just gone, nope, We're just turning it off in that area. We just won't allow that to happen. But when you've got bigger countries more influence, China and so on and so forth, why, what is preventing them to have bigger influence over these tools that are already developed? All we need to do is change the hashes. So there's a little bit of nervousness, I think, around this. I think the premise of keeping the children safe is great, and I do think that we should be building tools to do that. But I do believe that we need to be very cautious as to where these tools can go, and it shouldn't be a question, in my opinion, of, oh no, we won't do this. We'll reassure you that we'll never ever do this. It should be, we can't do this because we have put this in place to prevent us from doing this, even if we wanted to do it in the first place. We can't do it. We simply cannot do this because we've put this thing in place that prevents this from happening. At the moment, it does feel like a door that is kind of open. And they're just saying, look, the algorithm, just trust in the algorithm. The thing is, the algorithm it's software, and software doesn't work all the time. Now, I do know from experience how difficult it is to actually moderate certain images. Now, we're talking about images here, not hashes. But like, for example, there's a lot of things where an image the machine will pick out an image which is incorrect, because it has certain Pantones that are the same Pantones as the offending image, that kind of thing. So I mean, I know we're talking here about images, and we really should be talking about hashes and stuff. That's where a lot of the confusion is going. But my point is that software is not reliable all of the time. It's only as reliable as the coder who has created it. So I just don't know. And what happens if they drop the ball on this? Right. So what happens if they roll this out and then there is this big scandal that happens? Some child abuse sexual ring has been discovered, and they point the finger at Apple because all the offenders have the phone, have the access, have these the iCloud access. And so what happens if the media then points at Apple and says, look, do your job, do the thing that you were supposed to say? That it could backfire on Apple. If Apple get this wrong, it could really seriously backfire. So Apple have been trying to create this privacy crown, this thing that we're the privacy people. We will uphold your privacy. And I think for people who aren't techies, who don't understand the difference between an image and a hash of an image, as I badly made that example earlier, I think that on the face of it, the public will just go, no, they've dropped the ball on their whole privacy crown. They don't hold that privacy crown anymore. They're going to be scanning my images, as in someone is going to be looking at my images. That isn't the case, of course, but I think that the way that this has been mentioned and announced has instilled a lot of fear in people, and I think Apple need to do a lot of work, a lot of backpedaling to actually inform users of what they will and will not do. I've got other notes here. So could the database get hacked? Could that get corrupted? What are the implications for this? Can political groups influence these kind of things? And also, one that is really weird is, why was the messaging of this really screwy? Why are all of the reports that I've been reading contradicting themselves, or worded in a way that instills fear rather than confidence? I imagine that Tim Cook or whoever at Apple who is leading this will need to inform the public in some form of event that's, to reassure the people. And I think that is extremely important, because there is a lot of misinformation by credible outlets out there. So, I mean, like I say, I'll say it again as a caveat. This information that I have here, I can't say that it's 100% correct because I've got this from a couple of places where, that I deem trustworthy, but are they though? Because there's other places that say that they're not, or it's not like this. So I don't know. It's a messy announcement, and that's a bit weird. It's a bit weird. It's almost like it was meant to be messy to confuse people, which is weird. It's not how I would have seen an Apple announcement to be made. And they have also apologized about this, saying that it was a bit jumbled. But this is it's a bit weird. It's a bit weird. So this is going to be called Neural Hash. So Apple said Neural Hash will roll out in the US. So it's only a US thing at the moment, at first, but would not say if or when it would be rolled out internationally. Until recently, companies like Facebook were forced to switch off their child abuse detection tools across the European Union after the practice was inadvertently banned. There's a lot of policy involved in this. So Apple's, which is a good thing and a bad thing, because it's a good thing because, if someone says that this is a bad idea and these are the justifications, and rightly so, then it can get shut down. But also, policy can influence in a negative way as well. So Apple said the feature is technically optional in that you don't have to use iCloud. Yeah, just don't use it. All the things that we here, have your Apple device, but don't use iCloud. It's optional. Wow. Okay. The thing is, Apple have made the ecosystem so you lose so much if you don't turn it on. Again, I'm using the ecosystem there. But it will be a requirement if users do. After all, your device belongs to you, but Apple iCloud doesn't. Yeah, that was a snippet I took from TechCrunch. So that paragraph there. Yeah, so it's optional. You don't have to use iCloud. But I don't know anybody who owns an iPhone that doesn't have iCloud turned on. Ah, dear. So my gut feeling about this is it's a bad idea. I like the reasoning behind it, as in, like, I can see that there should be a tool like this. My concern is that there is a lot of ambiguity over the reasonings. Why now? What has pushed them to do this? For so long, they haven't done this before. So why now? What is the thing that is driving them to make this decision? And what are their motives? What is their agenda for this? What is their 5, 10, 20-year plan for this tool that they are requiring Apple to do? Or do you really think Apple just woke up one day and went, actually, we're going to do this today because, we love privacy? I don't know. And, if they were to do this, then their announcement would be so much better, I believe. So, I just don't know. I feel conflicted because I can understand that tools like this will save children. I get it. My concern is what happens afterwards. What happens after they turn this machine on? And what happens when someone new gets hold of it with their own agendas, with their own motives? What happens if countries get hold of this? One day it could be looking for CSAM. Next day it could be looking for something completely different, and that completely different thing could have really bad outcomes. So yeah, like I said at the start of this, just because you can code something doesn't mean that you should. Anyway, That's me. I'm done. Happy coding, everybody, and I'll see you again soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.